Our next question is from Daniel. He asks a very topical and current question. How can we confront the massive cost increase of primary needs, housing, food, etc., without damaging our savings or our future too much? I've seen, like many people, my monthly mortgage payments almost double out of nowhere, and the same with my grocery expenses, and go from using 30% of my monthly income to over 70%. And don't get me started on childcare costs. Daniel, don't get me started on childcare costs too. I've only got one. Damo, you got two.
Yeah, but I live up north, so it's not like the London 10k average, but it's still expensive. I mean, we now appear to be started on childcare costs, so sorry about that, Daniel. But it's like before school and after school club, which basically is like just so I can do a day's work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's some reason the school system's designed 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. or something like this.
Not helpful.
It's not useful.
Yeah.
But they want 15 quid for breakfast and 20 quid for after school. So you're talking like 20, 30 quid a day. It ratchets up, doesn't it? It's hundreds of pounds.
Nurseries in London cost more than some people's like salaries.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to send your kid to nursery sometimes if you're not making enough.
I read a stat the other day. So there's like, you lose the free childcare places as soon as you earn over 100 grand. That means that someone earning 140k in London is potentially worse off than someone earning 99. So it makes no sense to get that pay rise because you lose the 30 hours. So if you've got 3 kids and you get a pay rise into 105k, you just get hammered. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got to start paying for all the childcare. I wish there was like an answer that I could give that was like, do this and it will fix your problems. But there isn't, the increased costs are the increased costs. What I would say is, don't let the wheels fall off, maintain those costs. You have to pay them, maintain your essential costs and all of those things, and try not to use debt to fund that, because that's just going to compound the problem long term. What we saw in COVID was costs went up massively, but then wages started to catch up as well. We've had this period of high wage growth. I know people will say it doesn't feel like that, and I know people will say it doesn't make up for years of stagnation, and that's true. But what tends to happen over time is things catch back up and balance out in the long run. And I think we're at this inflection point where everything got so expensive so quickly, and we've still not really caught up properly. I do hope that things like around mortgages, as an example, I hope that interest rates will come down and steady on a bit. A lot of the sharp jump that we saw in mortgage rates was because people were anticipating rates going higher and higher. We've seen mortgages start to get a bit cheaper now, so hopefully that provides some respite. But we are moving from a period of zero interest rates to now we're going to be 3-4% long term. And this is kind of the new normal in terms of borrowing costs. For me, if I'm sitting in a house going, I can't afford this house, I'm not going to sit there and wait forever. I'm going to say, can we afford this house long term? Is this where we should be living? I know a lot of people bought houses where I live for ridiculous amounts of cash, and I see the for sale boards going up now because they can't afford them anymore.
Yeah.
The 0% rates aren't coming back. I think in terms of long-term savings, just do what you can. Most say that if you save 10 to 15% of your total income, and that includes the gross income, and that includes pension contributions from your employer as well, which get you to like 4% of that, say, then you're doing okay long term.
I don't think Daniel can save 10 to 15. I think he's saying like it's hard to save now because everything's so expensive. Even the job market as well. You're saying like wages haven't caught up. They definitely haven't caught up.
They haven't caught up, and they haven't made up for 10 years of stagnation, but wages have risen faster than any period certainly in my lifetime. Yeah. One of the key concerns of the Bank of England was the wage growth, because it speaks to the inflation problem. The price wage spiral, or the wage price spiral, whatever you want to call it, is this idea that prices go up and people ask for more money so that they can pay the prices, and then the prices go up again. Yeah. A lot of people will say it doesn't exist, but it's certainly something that the Bank of England thinks exists. And we note it, they look for wage price growth as a key indicator of how sticky the inflation problem is. And they were concerned about it. So what I'm saying is wages have, ramped up a little bit, and hopefully in the long run, we'll see that balance come through. Speaking of wages though, I think when someone sat there going, I can't afford my life and I can't afford this, one obvious area that I don't think people talk about much is going and try and improve how much you earn, your incomes. Yeah. Ask for pay rises, look for a better job, try and increase that side of it, because there's only so much you can cut back on. You can cut to the bone and then there's not much further you can go.
Yeah.
And I think this whole thing of like save, you start to decrease your quality of life to a point. You know, if someone's got to walk an hour to work every day, it's not ideal.
Or cycle an hour to basketball in the rain. It's
Yeah.
not as fun. But on the wages thing, if you can ask for a raise, or you can just, best way to get a raise is to
move companies.
And then, try
It
and
seems
get paid
like the
more.
job market's still relatively tight because there's millions of people that are just economically inactive. I was saying it's almost 10% of the workforce are just on long-term sickness, right? So there still seems to be a relatively tight labour market, and what that means is talent is in demand, and they can go and they can, within reason, kind of demand a better wage. If someone's looking for staff at the minute, they're probably relatively desperate, you know, so use that to your advantage. Daniel says there he's gone from 30% to 70%. I'm not clear if that meant that his food bill or his mortgage has, but is he saying that I've gone from only spending 30% of my income on my total expenses to now spending 70%. So does that mean before he could save up to 70% of his income? That's kind of how it reads. I think it's horrible when the amount you can save a month goes backwards.
Yeah.
It's certainly been the case for me. You know, I can't save as much now as I used to, in a way, you know, as a percentage of my income. Because I've taken on more responsibility in the home. You know, like my contribution to the house has more than doubled. So that affects... I used to save like 80% of my income, mate. You know,
I think you're in a very small minority.
Yeah,
of the
obviously, obviously. But at the same time, I was living in a house share with 4 other lads, where I rented the place and rented the rooms out. I would earn 100 grand a year and then work as delivery driver at a Chinese takeaway, and then only live off the Chinese takeaway money. Do you know what I mean? So that's what. And now I've got this 4-bed detached house with 2 kids who just bleed money out of me. So I look at it and I'm like, I used to save more then than I do now, even though I earn more. But that's okay. I'm still saving.
I think so. The most important thing, I think, would be to make sure you're saving. Try and save every month, even if it's gone less. Hopefully,
be in your auto enrollment scheme.
Yeah,
you know, that gets you to 8% of that 10 to 15%, and then tuck a bit away from the salary. There is no magic answer, and you know, I can say, oh, just go earn more money, and you come across as a bit insensitive. But if there's not enough money, you either cut costs or you earn more. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I hope over the next 5 to 10 years that we see everything's just balance out again. Who knows?
Who knows?
Sorry, Daniel. A bit of a shit answer.
No good news, no optimism.
No.
But yeah, hopefully it's going to get better. That's what I hope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always optimistic.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, hanging out with you too much.